Hi, little buddy.
Good morning, Internet. Wake up. It's almost booze o'clock. And you don't want to be... And you don't want to be late for booze o'clock. Hi, and welcome back to the Noisy Barstool Presents. The last time we were together, we had a marathon. We had a beer at Amager, a beer at Brekkeriet, and a beer at Brewski. And today our adventure starts in Gothenburg, which we rolled into kinda late, so the lighting wasn't great for filming. But I did get a few good pictures, and I'll put them up here. A few of us went out that night and found a bar called Bourbon Street, and us being New Orleans bartenders figured we had to check it out. And while their Sazerac, let's say, was unconventional, the demographic of everyone at the bar was made up of old and young and people of different backgrounds, and they were all there for one reason, to have a good drink in an open-air bar. And in that respect, I think they got New Orleans pretty correct. After that nightcap, it was off to bed, because in the morning we were going to visit Beerbliotek, a brewery whose beer we had never tasted because at the time of the trip, they hadn't been released in the US. Other brewers on the trip, though, told us that these guys were the real deal, and I'm happy that they did, because this brewery might be the most philosophically pleasing breweries I've ever visited. Buckle up, y'all. I'm about to fanboy over here. As you may have guessed, the name Beerbliotek is a play on words, for Latin for library, and that's what they're trying to do. Be a lexicon of beer, be a library of different variants and styles. They think a good beer is kind of like a good book. And when you're done with a good book, you might reread it, but not for a little while. You'll put it on the shelf, and you'll pick up a new book. With that in mind, they try and make new beers all the time. And at the time of our visiting, they were averaging a new beer every 9 days. And in their first year of full production, I believe they made 43 different types of beer. I kind of think of these guys as the free-form jazz of brewing. They're in a constant state of improv. They make a beer, and if it works, they take some of the things that work and tweak it in new directions. They kind of function in an antithetical manner to the rest of beer culture. Everyone else is so concerned with having this knockdown flagship. And while they do have 6 or 7 beers you can get year-round, they're going to have a couple dozen that you can get that are just one-offs or weird collaborations. With all of these different styles of beers coming out, you might be wondering, how does anyone keep track of them? And for one, they're numbered. At the beginning of 2019, they released their 239th beer, an unfiltered lager named I Just Want You to Be Normal. But along with the numbering system, their beer is also color coordinated. When I say their beer is color coordinated, I mean that the individual ingredients inside the beer is color coordinated. Let's say they use a certain type of hops. They'll assign it to one of these colorful triangles, say one of the greens. Or maybe they'll assign yeast to one of the blues or malt to one of the yellows. And that way, when you've had a beer that you really enjoyed, say the one with a lot of the green triangles, you can look for beers that they make in the future that have a lot of those same green triangles. Ultimately, they give you a lot of information just on the outside of the can, which is pretty cool when you're a bartender in the middle of a busy service shift. I don't have to stop and read the fine print or anything. And they kind of give us a weapon, or at least an answer to having to deal with that one customer that I know every bartender has dealt with at some point. There you go, man. Enjoy. What can I get for you? Oh, hey, man. Can I get a beer? Listen, I had this beer like a month ago in a country distinct from the one I'm currently ordering in, and I don't remember the type of beer or the name of the beer or the brewery that the beer was made in or any of the things about the beer or the ingredients that could be in the beer or really whether or not it was a beer or maybe just liquefied chicken nuggets. But I do remember that it had like a green can with a weird bee on it. And do you have something like that? Like not that beer, but like something real close, like that beer, but like I don't want that beer. I want like a different beer, something I never had. Could you just like wow me? Yeah, green can, weird bee. You know what? Maybe I can help you. You helpless little idiot. After just one day in Gothenburg, we were on the train to Stockholm. And when we arrived in Stockholm, we had a free day, a respite of all the scheduled drinking. So of course we started at our hotel's tropical-themed rooftop bar. I mean, who wouldn't after a long train ride? I mean, look at this face. Look at this face. That is the face of a man enjoying a tiki drink while on a rooftop bar overlooking this view. But after that we dispersed and went to see the city, and Stockholm has all the trappings of a good tourist city. Great architecture, cool sights, delicious food, and really fun drinks. This last video was taken at Akkurat, a bar with one of the best spirits and beer selections I've ever seen. But the place that I went that I really want to highlight has nothing to do with drinking at all. It was the Vasa Museum. See, the Vasa Museum is a museum dedicated to the Vasa, a ship that sunk in 1628 in the waters around Stockholm, and then was raised 333 years later and restored. The museum houses the preserved Vasa ship, and it has super low lighting so that the wood beams don't degrade any further. So I wasn't able to get any good video, but I did get some really incredible pictures, which I'm going to put up in a slideshow right here. The museum was beautiful and haunting and really intense, and if you get a chance to visit, I could not recommend it more. They have guided tours in several languages, and the grounds around the museum, the Royal National City Park, are worth just seeing by themselves. The last place we visited was the Feather Island Brewery. The Feather Islands are an archipelago of 4 main islands and a few smaller ones, about a 30-minute boat ride outside of Stockholm. The Feather Islands are home to natural wildlife, some really cute artisan shops, and in our case, most importantly, a delicious brewery. The Feather Island Brewery is different than most of the breweries that we visited because it's a true brew pub with a functioning kitchen and non-alcoholic offerings, and even a few guest taps. Now, brew pubs are kind of a foreign concept in Sweden. Breweries don't usually sell their beer because alcohol is state-owned. There's really strict laws on who can sell it in a retail capacity. But because the Feather Island is a brew pub, they can proudly serve their beer just a few feet from where it's made. Another thing that sets the brewery apart from many of the others we've visited was that the majority of their storage is in a cave. In keeping with the other residents of the island, the Feather Island Brewery takes an artisan's approach. They make very small batches, and they offer tastings and classes to anyone who wants to know a little bit more about making beer. They're probably best known for their hops features or their darker beers, maybe their Monkey Business APA or their Mr. Cocoa Imperial Stout. And a visit to the island is worth it just on the beer alone, but you should give yourself enough time to explore and maybe check out some of the other artisan shops. Well, friends, that concludes this episode of the Noisy Barstool Presents, and it also concludes my adventures in Sweden and Denmark. I hope to soon take you on some adventures stateside, and until then, while I'm gathering footage, I'm going to release some smaller videos, some one-offs about interesting restaurants or coffee shops, breweries, distilleries, maybe even retail spaces that I find in my travels. And I'll also probably put up some how-to videos for my amateur bartenders out there. Anyway, I've been Dave, your host, your friend, your traveling companion, your personal bartender. If you like this video, feel free to like it, subscribe to the channel, and as always, if there's ever a moment in your life where your glass feels half empty, that might mean you're just not drinking fast enough. Cheers.